A 21-year-old from Quezon City walked onto center court at the All England Club, tape wrapped around her right thigh, fresh tape across her left forearm, and somewhere deep in her chest, the memory of a grandfather who used to read tennis books at the local club. By the time she walked off that same court for the final time this fortnight, the entire Philippine Senate was drafting resolutions in her honor. Wimbledon's own social media accounts were posting in Tagalog, and Senator Loren Legarda was delivering a tribute so raw, so sincere, that it tore across the internet and made a nation of 117 million people cry together. This is the story of how Eala turned 2 weeks in London into something far bigger than tennis, and how one senator's words captured the weight of everything she had done. Let's go back to the beginning of this grass court season, because what happened at Wimbledon did not happen in a vacuum. Eala arrived at the All England Club having just completed the finest stretch on grass in her entire career. She carried a 9-3 record on the surface in 2026, and that record included a title at the Birmingham Open, where she came back from a set down to defeat Nikola Bartunkova 5-7, 6-3, 7-5 in a final that tested every ounce of her competitive nerve. Before Birmingham, she had reached the semi-finals of the WTA 500 Berlin Open, knocking off 2 top 10 players along the way, Elena Rybakina and Alina Svitolina. Those were not flukes. Those were statements. Eala was reading the grass better than she ever had. Her footwork had sharpened. Her slice backhand had become a real weapon, and her serve, long considered the most vulnerable part of her game, was starting to land with more purpose and disguise. When the Wimbledon draw came out, Eala was seeded 29, making her the first Filipina ever to be seeded in a Grand Slam singles draw. She entered with a world ranking of 32. Think about that for a second. Just a year earlier at Wimbledon 2025, she was unseeded, unranked in the top 100, and gave defending champion Barbara Krejcikova a genuine scare in the first round before falling in 3 sets. 12 months later, she was not just in the main draw, she was expected to win rounds. The growth was staggering. Her first round opponent was Renata Zarazua of Mexico, a player who had actually beaten Eala once before at the 2024 ITF Cari Tennis Classic. There was a quirky layer to this matchup, too, since the pair had teamed up as doubles partners at the 2025 French Open. But Eala showed zero sentimentality once the match started. She was clinical. She was aggressive from the opening point, dictating the baseline exchanges with her forehand and moving Zarazua around the court with angles that had clearly been sharpened on the practice courts of the Rafa Nadal Academy. The final score was 6-1, 6-2. It was a demolition. In the second round, she faced Australia's Maya Joint, a player she knew well. The two had met in the Eastbourne final in 2025, a match Eala won to claim her first ever WTA singles title. This time, however, Joint came out fighting and Eala was forced into a resilient comeback. She had to dig deep, find solutions under pressure, and ultimately prove that her mental toughness had evolved alongside her shot-making. She pulled through. 2 rounds down, and the draw was about to throw her something extraordinary. Waiting in the third round was the defending Wimbledon champion, the world number 3, Iga Swiatek. Now, here's where the story shifts from a career trajectory into something that borders on folklore. Eala had beaten Swiatek once before at the 2025 Miami Open in a result that transformed her profile overnight, especially back home in the Philippines. But beating Swiatek at a Masters event and beating her on center court at Wimbledon as the defending champion in front of a global television audience, that is an entirely different universe of pressure. The first set was one of the finest sets of tennis played at the entire championships. It went to a tiebreak. Momentum swung like a pendulum. Swiatek broke first for 2-1. Eala broke right back, bringing up breakpoint with a clever high moon ball return before nailing an angled passing shot off a drive volley. Then Eala broke again for 5-3 and had her first set point. But Swiatek, being Swiatek, fired 3 consecutive forehand winners to escape. They went to 5-all. Then into the tiebreak. Eala built a 5-2 lead with relentless returning, and it seemed like the set was hers. But Swiatek clawed back with a 4-point run and reached set point at 9-8, then another set point at 10-9. Eala saved them both. On the first, she cracked an unreturned serve. On the second, Swiatek netted a forehand. And then on Eala's fourth set point, Swiatek missed it a forehand long and the set was over. 11-9 in the tiebreak. 84 minutes for one set. The crowd was on its feet. What followed in the second set was even more impressive in its own way because it showed how Eala could shift gears. She broke Swiatek twice for a 3-love lead, then navigated 3 deuces and saved a breakpoint to hold for 4-love. At one point, she slipped on the grass and went completely horizontal, yet somehow stuck her racket out while lying on the ground and got the ball back into play. The crowd erupted. It was the kind of moment that gets replayed 1,000 times on social media and never loses its magic. Swiatek fought back, broke once, and forced Eala into a 6-2 marathon to close out the match. Eala saved 4 break-back points. The final was sealed on her third match point with a forehand winner, her 24th of the day. She finished with 24 winners against 21 unforced errors. Swiatek had 32 winners, but 44 unforced errors. The tactical discipline was decisive. And then came the interview. This is the moment that truly broke through beyond tennis. Standing on center court, still breathing hard, Alexeala looked into the camera and let the tears come. She said she was emotional. She said that maybe for someone like Eala, who has won so many Grand Slams, or for someone like Serena or Venus Williams, this kind of achievement might seem small. But then her voice cracked. She said that for someone who grew up in the Philippines, someone who used to go train with her brother and her grandfather every day after school, wearing ruffled socks and light-up shoes with chubby cheeks, this was everything. But because I'm emotional does not mean I'm satisfied, she said. So next round, let's go. That line hit like thunder. It carried defiance and humility in equal measure. It told you everything about who Alexeala is. She was not there to have a nice moment and go home. She was there to compete. And when she mentioned her grandfather, when she mentioned Lolo Bob, the man who was never a professional coach, but who took her to the club, who read tennis books obsessively, who watched matches and passed on everything he learned to his granddaughter and grandson, you could feel the weight of an entire family's sacrifice condensed into a single paragraph spoken on the most famous tennis court in the world. Within hours, Wimbledon's official social media accounts posted about Eala in Tagalog. Sino bang hindi mababijani as a performance na yun ni Eala? They wrote, accompanied by a clip set to the Filipino song Yakap. Filipino fans flooded the comments. Nakatagalog na si Winvi. One wrote, May Pinoy admin na siya. Another joked, it was a cultural moment. The most traditional, most establishment institution in tennis was speaking in the language of a young woman from Quezon City who had just knocked the defending champion off the throne. That does not happen by accident. That happens because the impact was undeniable. In the fourth round, Eala faced Italy's Jasmine Paolini, the 2024 Wimbledon finalist, on center court. Roger Federer was in the royal box. Billie Jean King was watching. The atmosphere was electric. Eala had beaten Paolini earlier in the year at the Dubai Tennis Championships, 6-1, 7-6. But this was a different setting and a different kind of pressure. Paolini took the first set 6-4, using her superior first serve percentage and heavier pace to push Eala back. In the second set, Eala found her footing. She broke Paolini twice, survived a nightmare moment at 0-40 on her own serve by winning 5 straight points, and leveled the match at 1 set apiece. But in the decider, Paolini found an extra gear. Her serve averaged 16 km/h faster than Eala's throughout the match, and in the critical moments of the third set, that difference told. Paolini broke at 5-3 and closed it out 6-4, 4-6, 6-3. Eala's Wimbledon was over. But even in defeat, the scene was remarkable. Center gave her a standing ovation. Not a polite obligatory clap, a full standing ovation. Federer and Billie Jean King rose to their feet. Eala walked off with her head held high, knowing that she had rewritten every meaningful record in Philippine tennis history. She became the first player from the Philippines to reach the fourth round at Wimbledon, surpassing the third-round finishes of legends from the amateur era like Felicissimo Ampon, Raimundo Darro, and Cesar Carmona. Names that had stood in the record books since the late 1940s and early 1950s. She climbed to a career-high world ranking of 28, the highest ever for a Filipino in WTA history. And then Senator Loren Legarda stepped to the podium. Legarda, a four-term senator, filed proposed Senate Resolution No. 504, a formal recognition of Eala's Wimbledon campaign. The resolution recounted every round, from the commanding opening win over Zarazua to the resilient comeback against Joint, to the landmark upset of the reigning champion Swiatek, to the spirited three-set battle against Paulini that ended with a standing ovation from tennis royalty. But the resolution was more than a list of scores. It cited Eala's entire trail of firsts. The first Filipino to win a junior Grand Slam singles title at the 2022 U.S. Open. The first Filipino in the Open era to break into the WTA top 100 and the top 30. The first Filipino to beat top 10 opponents. The first Filipino to reach a WTA Tour final. The first Filipino to win a Grand Slam main draw singles match. And now the first to reach the second week of a major. Legarda called the resolution a recognition of Alexeala's discipline, humility, and indomitable spirit. She said Eala had carried the Philippine flag onto the world's most prestigious tennis court and shown that Filipinos can defeat the very best. She said the Wimbledon breakthrough affirmed Eala's stature as the finest tennis player the Philippines has ever produced. She said the journey inspires a new generation of Filipino athletes and brings immense pride and honor to the nation. Those words went viral. They went viral because they were not performative. They were not a politician attaching themselves to a trending topic. They carried genuine recognition of what this young woman had accomplished against the odds that athletes from countries without deep tennis infrastructure face every single day. The Philippines is a boxing nation, a basketball nation. Tennis never had this kind of figure. And Legarda's tribute captured precisely why it mattered. It placed Eala's Wimbledon run alongside the defining achievements in Philippine sports history, right there in the official record of the Philippine Senate. What makes this entire arc so compelling from an analytical standpoint is how deliberate Eala's improvement has been. This was not a player who got lucky with a favorable draw and rode a hot streak. Her grass court game was rebuilt methodically. Her serve, which used to be a liability, produced 4 aces against Swiatek and held up under the most intense pressure imaginable. Her movement on grass, once tentative, became fluid and confident, allowing her to execute the slides and recoveries that define elite grass court tennis. Her tactical awareness against Swiatek was extraordinary. She used high moon ball returns to disrupt Swiatek's rhythm, knowing that the Polish player's top spin-heavy game loses some of its bite on grass. She mixed in angled passing shots that exposed Swiatek's weaknesses at the net, where the defending champion won just 9 of 20 net points and shanked multiple dry volleys. These are not things that happen by instinct alone. These are the products of study, preparation, and coaching at the highest level. And yet, for all the tactical precision, what resonated with people was not the strategy. It was the emotion. It was a young woman from a country of 117 million people standing on the court she had dreamed about since she was a child with chubby cheeks and light-up shoes, telling the world that this moment was everything to her, and in the same breath telling the world that she was not done. That duality, the vulnerability and the hunger, is what turned Alexeala from a rising tennis player into a national symbol. Legarda understood that. Her tribute was not about tennis statistics. It was about what Eala represents to a country searching for reasons to come together. In December 2025, Eala had already captured the women's singles gold medal at the Southeast Asian Games, ending a 26-year drought for the Philippines in that event. She was already a unifying figure, but Wimbledon elevated it to another level entirely. When Manny Pacquiao, the greatest Filipino athlete of all time, went on national television earlier this year and said he was proud of Eala, that she carries the flag around the world, that the country needs more of what she represents, you could feel the torch being passed or at the very least shared. So, where does this leave Alexeala? She is 21 years old. She is ranked in the top 30 in the world. She has beaten top 10 players on multiple surfaces. She has won titles on hard courts and on grass. She has gone toe-to-toe with the defending champion of Wimbledon on center court and won. She has the tactical intelligence, the physical tools, and perhaps most importantly, the mental resilience to continue climbing. The loss to Paolini in the fourth round was not an ending. It was evidence of where the margins still need to close, particularly on serve speed and first serve consistency in high-pressure third sets against experienced opponents. Those are solvable problems for a player with her work ethic and her support system at the Rafa Nadal Academy. What cannot be coached, what cannot be manufactured, is what she showed in that post-match interview after beating Swiatek. That rawness, that honesty, that refusal to let emotion become complacency. Because I'm emotional does not mean I'm satisfied. That single sentence tells you everything you need to know about where Alexeala is headed. And Senator Legarda's resolution, filed in the halls of the Philippine Senate and shared millions of times across social media, tells you everything you need to know about what she has already meant. Some achievements are measured in rankings and trophies. Others are measured in how deeply they move a nation. Alexeala, in the span of 2 weeks in London, managed both.